Hey guys, this is Kyle with STILLEN. Today we're going to show you how to do the installation of the Kia Stinger 3-liter twin-turbo STILLEN cold air intake. Bear with us as we fast forward through a couple of sections that aren't quite that important and don't need all that much voiceover, and we're just going to rush through this for you. So to start with, you're going to remove the factory strut tower brace, and then you're going to remove the factory air boxes. The factory air boxes are held in with 3 screws that support the airbox to the chassis of the vehicle. Once you've removed all 3 screws supporting the airbox to the chassis, you're then going to move on to the front inlet to the front core support. You're also then going to remove the clamp holding the inlet tube onto the actual airbox. With these out of the way, the airbox will come right out of place. Then you're going to want to remove the bolt underneath the bottom of the inlet tube. Go ahead and keep all this hardware as you will be reusing some of it later. Here you can see the bolt that you want to remove on the front core support. Hopefully you can see it in this video. Then remove the factory inlet tube from the actual turbo and disconnect the vacuum line from the bypass valve. On the passenger side, you're only going to have one hose to remove. You can see here that we've labeled the filter side and the inlet side for easy installation. On the passenger side, you're going to select the 45-degree elbow. Here you're going to want to lightly clamp the silicone boot onto the turbo just to get a little bit of tension there. Right now, you're not trying to line anything up, you're just getting all the components into place. You're going to line them up later on. When you install the filter, make sure that you install the correct bracket on the correct side of the vehicle in this orientation you see here. And you're going to use the supplied 10mm screws in order to bolt the bracket to the chassis of the vehicle. And here we're just checking to make sure that we have proper engagement, that the tube is secure in both the air filter as well as the silicone boot. Everything is pretty loose at this point. The only thing that we've tightened is the boot to the turbo. And here we're just doing a final tightening of the boot to the turbo, make sure everything is good and happy again in its correct position. And then we'll go through and retighten all the clamps and make sure that we have proper engagement. And on the passenger side, you just reuse the factory inlet bypass valve. To start with, you're going to want to line up the upper intake lid. And again, just lightly bolt this into position. This is going to move around a little bit during the installation just to gain you better access. And you'll see that the lower panel slides on top of the upper panel when you actually go to install it on the rearmost bolt. Here we're installing the self-tapping screws just to get everything lined up properly. And then reusing the factory hardware, go ahead and tighten down that upper bolt. And now we move to the driver's side of the vehicle. Again, get the factory strut tower braces out of the way. Same thing on the passenger side. You're going to go ahead and remove the 3 bolts that hold down the airbox to the chassis of the vehicle, and remove the clamp supporting the airbox, and remove the clamp connecting the airbox. Here you have a choice. You can either remove the inlet tube or not, your choice, but you will need to remove the bolt next to the inlet tube in order to install the upper airbox lid at a later time. The driver's side has a few more hoses attached for vacuum lines as well as the bypass valve, so you're going to need to remove those. All 3 hoses do need to be removed. The bypass valve and these vacuum lines are a little bit tough to remove just because they've been heat cycled a few times, so it might take a little bit of effort to pop those off. You're going to want to make sure that you pay attention to the orientation of the vacuum lines as they will be switched later on. You can see that one vacuum line lines up perfectly into the intake tube. You're going to go ahead and connect that one. Here you can see that we have placed the factory intake tube back into the frame of the video. The purpose of this is to show that the factory intake tube has 2 lines coming off of it, one for the vacuum line and one for the bypass valve. The one for the vacuum line gets rotated 180 degrees, so what was once the inlet is now the outlet and vice versa. Go ahead and reconnect it in this manner in order to prevent any kinks or forced installation. Here we're just checking to make sure that we've attached everything properly to the vehicle before installing the upper shields. Similar to the passenger side, use the supplied self-tapping screws to install the lower shield to the upper shield. Everything is a little bit loose right now until we attach the upper shields to the chassis of the vehicle. Overall, the installation of this intake took us about 1 hour and 5 minutes while we were filming this video. Of course, we stopped a couple of times just to make sure that we were getting everything and to reposition the cameras and whatnot. But you can see it's a pretty straightforward installation, nothing too major. You just want to make sure that you have proper engagement of the intake tube into your silicone boots as well as your air filter. Make sure that you're capturing everything and everything's good and tight. So we recommend that the installation on this, go ahead and plan for about 45 minutes to an hour. If you've never done anything like this before, you might want to consult a professional. Thank you very much. We hope this video was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please give us a call. Have a great day.